Good evening. Today is Tuesday, January 22nd, and this is the start of the Hanson Board of Selectmen meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting is being taped by Whitman Hanson Cable Access. I'd like to have a moment of silence for Library Director Gret Lozo and also William Lonigan, who passed away recently. Thank you. Okay, Matt.
All right, good evening, Hanson. Here are this week's announcements. Open burning season began on January 15th and will run until April 30th. Permits are available at the fire headquarters, 505 Liberty Street, daily from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. The cost of the permit is $20 and payable by check or money order made out to the town of Hanson. No cash will be accepted. Nomination papers for May 18th town election are now available at the town clerk's office. For more information, contact the town clerk at 781-293-2772. The town clerk urges all voters and residents who have not returned the 2019 census form to do so as soon as possible. Any voters that have not returned their 2019 town census form will be placed on the inactive voter list for future elections. On March 16th, the Hanson Business Network will be hosting its third annual St. Patrick Day fundraiser to benefit the Hanson Food Pantry from 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. at Needles Lodge in Camp Kewanee. This event will be a St. Patrick's themed shindig with complete dinner, live Irish music, DJ'd Irish music, Irish step dancing, cash bar, and a silent auction, as well as a St. Patrick photo booth. Tickets are a bargain at $25 per person and may be purchased online at Everbright or by emailing Laura Kemet at fitzkemmett@gmail.com or by calling 781-294-1261. Discounts are available for folks who purchase 8 tickets or more. Please visit the Hanson Business Network Facebook page for more information. If you cannot attend but wish to donate an item for the silent auction or raffle, it will be deeply appreciated. Volunteers are needed on the following committees: the 200th Anniversary, Capital Improvement, Community Preservation, Economic Development, Elder Affairs, Finance, Memorial Day Patriot Observance, Memorial Field Trustees, Recreation Commission, and Zoning Board Alternate. Applications for appointment and information on the committees are available at the town website at hanson-ma.gov. Upcoming meetings: Selectmen and Finance Committee will be meeting on Tuesday, January 29th at 7 p.m. The 200th Anniversary will be meeting on Thursday, January 31st at 7 p.m. School Committee on Wednesday, February 7th at 7 p.m. Selectmen will be meeting on Tuesday, February 12th, and Tuesday, February 26th at 7 p.m.
Okay, thanks, Matt.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just add,
Yes.
the board is also, or the town is also seeking anyone who would be interested in applying for an open library trustees position. So it's just, we hadn't added it on, so just so that that's out in the public, that we're accepting applications for that.
Okay,
Which
thank
would be
you.
it'd be a joint appointment between the trustees and this board.
Okay.
Can I ask you this for a second? You had done a moment of silence for Gret Lozo. She was a library trustee, not the library director, and I just wanted to let you know the director is still alive and well.
Okay, thank you.
That is true. That
Apologize
was my
for
bad.
that.
Sorry about that, Kenny.
That's okay. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna hop around a little bit. The first thing I have here is an appointment for our newest police sergeant, Chief Mix. Good evening.
Evening, Chief.
Change it to something more appropriate, apologize. I'm gonna ask the board this evening if, to promote Officer Alicia Sullivan to the rank of sergeant. We have a vacancy in the sergeant position with the promotion of Lieutenant Casey this past year. What we did, which we've done in years past, we held an assessment center, a written exam. If they passed the written exam, they then went on to the assessment center. 5 individuals took both the exam and the assessment center. All 5 passed, which is a first and very impressive. And Officer Sullivan actually topped it. She's been with us since 2013. She has over 11 years in law enforcement. However, she started out with the Situate Police as like a summer officer. Then she worked at Boston Housing, and then she was in Plimpton for a few years as well. She's got a bachelor's degree in science. She actually was a biology teacher. I even asked her again the other day, why would you be a teacher and then become a cop? Doesn't make sense to me, but hey, she said this is more her calling. So she got her degree from Simmons College, and she's been very vital to me, well, actually to all of us. She coordinates the overdose outreach program with the Plymouth County outreach group, and she also was one of my sexual assault investigators. I believe she'll make an excellent supervisor, and with that, I would request that the board vote to appoint her as a sergeant effective February 4th.
Anybody have any questions? So I'd like to entertain a motion to appoint Officer Alicia Sullivan to the rank of Hanson Police Sergeant,
So moved.
Second.
effective February 1st,
February.
2019. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
February 2nd or 4th?
4th, starts a pay period.
Oh, I'm sorry, I said first, February 4th. Thanks, Jim.
Do we have to do this whole thing over again?
No.
No, Mary can adjust the date.
Yeah, February 4th, please. That's a pay period, it works. All right, thank you very much. I know she's excited, and I appreciate it.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, new business, polar plunge. Melissa, do you want to come on up and give us a briefing of the polar plunge?
So I've been asked to come and just speak to the polar plunge because I guess there's been some questions from the community. So I'm going to just start with reading the information that we created for the actual plunge page that we have. So about this fundraiser, it will be Sunday, January 27th, 2019. Each participant in this fundraising event will take on the task of jumping into the chilly waters of Cranberry Cove in January 2019 to raise money on behalf of the students at Indian Head Elementary School in Hanson, Massachusetts. The Hanson PTO will use the funds raised to pay for enrichment activities and fulfill needs that support the curriculum through teacher and staff requests. Indian Head Elementary is a school where student learning thrives and children feel good about the place they call their school. We believe that this is because of the incredible students that attend our school, the awesome staff who believe that relationships with students are key to optimal learning, and more importantly, the incredible support of our families and our community. The students could not engage in all the wonderful learning opportunities and the fun things that they do here without your monetary support. Please know that no amount is too small. Your ongoing backing and support are both truly appreciated. So with that being said, and just in case people have questions about where the donations, exactly what they're going towards. So as a PTO, we discuss at the beginning of the school year what we're looking to support, what our sort of mission is. And that includes paying for enrichment opportunities. So that could be helping to fund a field trip that students go on, or it could be having something come in. We're having the Museum of Science come in with their traveling star lab and I think animals or something. Where our principal is looking for a sound system for school-wide assemblies. She's very big on creating a culture of positivity and inclusivity, but it's very hard to hear when she's doing these sort of school-wide assemblies because we don't have something that allows her to project her voice for everybody as well as she would like it to be. Also, technology needs. We all know that technology changes constantly, and even though there are, technology is part of our school budget, because everything is changing so fast, the schools are not always able to support all the technology that needs to be happening in the classroom. So we do that, and also teacher requests, so that supports and enhances student learning. So the Polar Plunge will be taking place again on Sunday, January 27th, 2019. It will start at 10 a.m. It will be at Cranberry Cove. Participants can register prior to the event at eventbrite.com. It is $30 for each participant. And then each participant is asked to raise a minimum of $35 and will receive their own fundraising page set up by organizers to make it easy for donations. Please register prior to the event. We will not take reservation on the day of the event. You cannot come to Cranberry Cove and pay $30 in cash and ask to jump. We are not allowing that. Everyone registered before the 31st of 2018, 12/31/18 will receive a towel to commemorate the event. All participants must be 18 years or older, and all participants must sign a waiver in order to participate, given the nature of the event. So who's welcome to our event? Viewing is open to the public. We just ask that spectators carpool with either a plunger they know, or they carpool with other spectators. I've been told that we can fit about 100, maybe 125 cars up at Kiwanee. We will have volunteers there directing traffic, just so people, well, not directing traffic, but directing cars as to where they can go. Preference to the lower lots will be given to plungers. So our wonderful volunteers will be asking people if you have a plunger or not, and if you do not, we will be asking you to go further along up to the Needles Lodge, because we want our plungers to have close access to their cars so they can warm up more quickly. Sort of what to expect when you come. So obviously plungers will come, they will sign in at the gate. We will be writing their heat number. It looks like we'll probably be having groups of people plunging at a time. So you'll sign your waiver, and you'll get a number on your hand that tells us what heat you are. 1, 2, 3, it could go up to 5, we're not sure at this
The
point.
selectmen do get a heat.
Preference.
Right? The selectmen
All
heat.
together, yes. The selectmen heat.
Then there
yes.
can be the school committee heat.
Yeah, so we'll make sure to group it together so that friends are amongst friends. Victims are amongst victims, however you want to look at it.
Oh, my word.
But in the part of the parking lot will actually be barricaded off so spectators can watch from there, and they'll be able to see through the fence. So it'll probably be me with a megaphone yelling out to people that Heat 1 will be going, so people can start to watch. We have some wonderful companies that have donated coffee and hot cocoa for everybody there, so people can stay somewhat warm while they're there. Trying to think if there's really, I think that's sort of the gist of it. I know there was some questions about donations, so our preferred method of receiving donations for our plunges is through our website, and I can give the URL for that just in general. So it's 99pledges.com/fund/PTO Polar Plunge 2019. And if you go to that web address, you can actually then look up, you can either donate directly to the plunge, or you can look up an individual and donate to that individual. We are accepting checks as well, and those can be made out to Hanson PTO. And I think that pretty much covers it. So our first heat, or our first group of people, will go at 10 a.m. So if you don't want to miss it, come on down, be there a little bit earlier, especially if you're just a spectator. You'll be walking down from the Needles Lodge to the beach, so prepare for that. And then I would say that this event will probably not last more than an hour. It'll be go, 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 warm
Not
up,
the
warm up.
individual heats, just for clarity's
No,
sake.
each heat will take about 10 to 15 minutes, we assume. And as
We're not in the water that long.
No. You go in and out, but we want to make sure that as people are coming out, our volunteers are there and ready with towels and foil
You're
blankets.
providing the heat, is that what you're saying?
Everybody gets a hug from me as they come out of the water. And then once everybody is safely away from the water and their needs have been tended to as best we can, we will have the next heat go through And that's what I'm expecting. I imagine that's sort of how it will go. So, there could be a couple bumps in the road. This is our first time doing this, but hopefully.
And last.
Maybe for you. I don't know. We'll see. We've gotten some really good support, so, and some positive vibes for it. But, yeah, I think that's kind of where
And this
we're
will
at.
be on cable access.
This,
we've
yes.
heard.
So this will be, Carol Brewster will be coming from Whitman Hanson Cable Access Channel, and she will be possibly doing some interviews beforehand to ask people who they are in the community and what made them want to take on a challenge like this, and as well as taping the plunge. And our principal, Jill Cotreau, is actually taping it as well for the students so that it can be shown to them the following Monday to see what adults are willing to do for them in their education and the support that they are receiving from the adults in their community. So,
Good stuff. Good job, Melissa.
anything else?
Melissa, I think you touched on this, but I had been talking to a couple of people who actually thought it was $30 to get a ticket to come in
No.
and watch it.
Nope. It's
It-
free to spectate. Anybody can come and enjoy coffee and hot cocoa. It's just simply to register, to be a participant. We're asking for a $30 because there are fees associated with this. We do have to consider that. And then the point of the pledging is that money goes towards right
And
into the
that's- yeah,
PTO
that's
funding
what I
and then
told.
gets dispersed.
Although I do think you could charge people. You could do preferential seating.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Yeah, we wanted to, the point of this was to come up with an event that was open to the community and open to community participants and not just families that have kids that are directly linked to the school. The point was to just start to bring together all the people, the different characters that we have here in town, and start to bring people together and
We have plenty of those.
lots of characters for sure.
Melissa, I just,
Citizens.
because Sunday may be a different situation for the board, so I would like to thank you now for putting in the time and the effort into getting this done, because my truck is going to be running.
Yes,
You
leave
know.
your keys in the ignition, be ready to go.
So thank you.
And the only last bit of information is, as I said, there'll be a barricaded area for spectators. We are not allowing anybody who is not involved in doing the plunge or a volunteer on the beach, just for safety purposes. It's, like I said, you'll have a mark on your hand that lets us know that you're allowed to come in. So volunteers, plungers, obviously, safety personnel, and then anybody who is part of the journalism world who will be taking a paper will be there taking pictures as well. So I just want to be clear about that too, that people are welcome to come and watch, but they have to stay in their safe area, and our plungers will be the ones on the beach.
Melissa, how many do you have so far?
So we've actually had people signing up all the way till today. We have 47 very
geez.
brave individuals who will be plunging for us.
Stop emphasizing that part.
The bravery. Well, I think this is not. It's not everybody's cup of tea, and the fact that everybody, at least on this board, is willing to do that speaks volumes.
You know what, we thank you for coming up with such a great idea and for driving it through,
you.
because it takes somebody with the vision and the enthusiasm that you had, so.
And, I've had a great subcommittee to work with, and I mean, our social media lady has been nothing less than phenomenal. We've had people working with the donations and, just doing sort of regular media. So there is a group of us behind me. I'm sort of the voice and the face right now, but there's a lot of people working behind the scenes to make this go as smoothly as possible. And obviously, fire and highway and police have been nothing short of amazing as well. So I think that's worth noting.
Excellent. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we're gonna go to interim conservation agent, Michelle Grenier
Yes,
and Drake it. How are you, Michelle?
I'm good, thank you.
Mr. McHugh?
Yeah,
Speak, or do you want Mr. Clemens, or?
Well, quite simply, Mr. Chairman, we have Michelle here today before the board with the request that the board appoint her to interim part-time conservation agent. Michelle has experience in several different towns in this exact position. We're actually very fortunate to have somebody of her qualifications willing to take this on a part-time basis. I would ask the board if they have any questions, or ask Michelle if she'd like to talk a few minutes about her experience, just so the board has an idea of you and what you bring to the town of Hanson.
Sure. I've been a conservation agent in several towns. I've worked for firms and Allen and Major and Colin Contonio, so I come from both sides of the street, if you want to look at it that way. And what I bring to towns is protection of wetlands, helping residents with their permit applications, because a lot of residents don't know anything about wetlands. So I like to lend a helping hand to all residents, and even contractors sometimes don't know what they're doing. So I like to help them through the permitting process as well as the commission. You know, the commission needs help in a lot of areas. They're not experts in everything as well. I have a degree in biology as well as a public administration degree, and I've worked as a selectman myself in the town of Middleborough, so I come from all angles.
I will mention that the chairman of the Conservation Commission and I, we interviewed approximately 5 or 6 individuals, so it was, I think, a thoroughly vetted process, and over the course of the last several weeks, and the chairman and I concur that we propose to the Board of Selectmen that the board appoint Michelle. Again, it's an interim position, and I did explain that a little bit at the previous meeting, but basically, just to stay in line with the way the wage and personnel matrix is written at the moment, you will be appointing her as interim, and once hopefully everything is said and done at town meeting in the spring that adjusts the matrix, then Michelle will step into, I probably will come back and ask you officially to put her into that role, but she will be the the permanent part-time agent, so.
I'd also like to add that I'm a professional wetland scientist and a certified wetland scientist. Those are both certifications for wetland scientists.
You definitely seem well qualified, that's for sure.
And I love the job. How's that?
Yeah, that's great. Is there any chance that you'd be moving down this way closer, or?
I think so.
You think so? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Does anybody else have any questions?
I did. I've noticed you've been in quite a few towns, which is great. What town would you say is comparable to Hanson in terms of, size and issues that we might deal with?
I think probably, well, it wouldn't be Stoughton. It could be Stoughton, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I was thinking more, because we have a lot of cranberry bogs and a lot of ponds and that type of thing. I'm not super familiar with Stoughton, but it seems as though it would be.
Probably Middleborough, where I was a
Yeah,
selectman.
yeah.
Would be the
Yeah,
closest.
I
That
think
would be the
probably would
closest,
be,
yeah.
Yeah. I do
But
like.
I worked for Allen and Major in Middleborough also. They have a satellite office there from Woburn.
Oh, okay. I do love the fact that you were a selectman, because I think it, and that you've worked in private, it just gives you a good balance, I think.
It
and
does.
a good perspective. What would you say is your philosophy on enforcement?
Be nice. Be nice and compromise, but also you have to educate people during enforcement too. But I think being nice and professional is the best way to handle it. That's the way I've handled it, and
Yep.
I usually get people to do what I want.
Here, here.
That's what counts. All right, great, thank you.
Good. Any more questions?
I make a motion that we appoint, and I'm sorry if I don't pronounce your name correctly, Michelle Grenier, the interim conservation agent for the town of Hanson.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded.
Did you?
Could I just add something to that? If you could also add on contingent upon successful completion of the town of Hanson hiring requirements. There's, a couple
Okay,
things that we spoke
contingent
about.
upon
Yeah.
the town of Hanson hiring requirements.
Any more questions? All those in favor? 5-0. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Yeah,
Thank
good
you.
luck.
Look forward to working with you.
Okay, back up to new business. Open the May 2019 special and annual town meeting warrants. Article due March 8th.
Can we possibly do the Recreation Commission appointment? Because we've got Judy here in the audience.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna hold off on that, and we're gonna go to item 5, Recreation Commission appointment.
Judy Hartwick.
Juby Hartwick, 377 Cross Street, term to expire 6/30/21. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Thanks for coming tonight. I'm sure everybody's reviewed her application. Does anybody have any questions for her?
I don't have any questions, but I'd just like to say I'm thrilled that she is applying, because anybody that knows Judy knows that she's a force to be reckoned with. She's got incredible ideas, and she's able to see them through to fruition, which is not a skill everybody has. And she is bright, she's engaging, she's positive to work with, she's collaborative. She was the director and the originator of the South Shore Children's Museum. She's a Rotarian, she's a teacher, she's the whole package. So I'm thrilled that she's stepped forward to help, and be a member of the Recreation Commission.
That's great.
Would you make that motion?
So I'm making that motion to appoint her.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any questions, Matt?
No, sir. I endorse her.
Okay. All right. All those in favor? 5-0. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
For your volunteering your time. We appreciate it. Okay. We're gonna move back up to new business. Open May 2019 special and annual town meeting warrants. Articles due on May 8th. So we're just gonna open up the warrant, is that it?
Yep.
Item one. So I'm looking for a motion to open the May 2019 special and annual town meeting warrants.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Motion's been made and seconded by Mr. Dyer. Anything else we should know, Mary? We're just gonna open them up?
We had just opened up, the articles will be due to me by the 8th of March, and
Okay.
then the board will vote to close the following Tuesday.
Okay. All right.
And you've already sent out that,
I'll send that out now.
To
that
all
it's
the
officially.
department heads.
I mentioned it at the last department head meeting, that
You
because
wanted to
we
get it
were
officially
delayed since our meetings have been changed. But I did mention to get the articles in, so.
All right, all those in favor? 5-0. Okay, request an article to amend the zoning bylaw relative to marijuana.
That, Mr. Chairman, is a request that the board needs to send to the planning board, since this is a zoning issue. The planning board needs to put it on as a planning board article, and they also need to hold the necessary hearings, go through that process. So you need to formally ask the planning board to do
Okay,
so.
it's gonna be the same article that was in October, right?
Primarily,
is that to
Okay.
sync things up? Is that what we're trying to do here?
yeah,
Okay.
it's trying to, again, ask town meeting by a 2/3 margin to make the necessary amendments to the zoning bylaw relative to retail marijuana, so that it lines up, as you said, with the, not only with the general bylaw and the vote on the general bylaw, but the vote on the zoning bylaw at the last local election.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's been moved and seconded. You got that, Mary?
I do.
Okay.
Little dramatic pause there. You know.
I'm sorry.
No, it was good. It was fine.
All those in favor? 5-0. Okay, item 2, proclaim April 26, 2019 as Arbor Day.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to proclaim April 26, 2019 as Arbor Day here in the town of Hanson.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any questions?
Is April 26th a Saturday?
Should be a Friday.
I mean, is this something that we're gonna celebrate, or?
Oh, yeah, we'll have an event,
Are you doing it up at the library?
I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
I think, I need to have a conversation with various people, the tree warden.
Did we do it last year right here?
Yes, we did, and the year before, we did it up at the library, so what I generally like to do with these is move them around in terms of public locations. I haven't had that conversation yet, wanted to get this declared. We've got a lot of time to get the particulars in place, but National Grid is generally a pretty good partner in these things. They'll donate a tree, an appropriate tree, and they'll also donate either the labor or give us the money for the labor. So they've always been pretty good about doing that. So stay tuned in terms of the wheres, but that'll be the when.
But to Jim's point, though, it's not a Saturday event,
No,
it's
no,
a
it's-
Friday
It's
event.
It's Friday.
It's a Friday. Yeah,
Okay.
it is a Friday.
And I would like to also throw out, it's a great educational opportunity for our youth. So if we can get the schools
Yeah.
involved somehow
Yeah.
and just do a little program, I'll be more than happy to. In full disclosure, too, I am a forester, and this is what I do. But it'd be great to kind of get the kids involved if we can.
Actually, we had asked them to attend the last event, but the timing was such that they couldn't. But in previous events that I've had in other towns, I've always asked and usually gotten the participation of one or two school classes, usually fourth, fifth graders.
Well,
So,
maybe you could contemplate doing the planting at one of the schools.
well, that is an option as well.
And that would, I
Yep.
think,
That would stop,
Yep.
that would
Yeah.
take care of the transportation
Yeah.
budget issue.
yeah.
Exactly.
All right, any more questions?
Was it seconded?
All those in, yes, it was.
Moved and seconded.
All those in favor? 5-0. Thanks, Matt. Okay, next, discussion regarding pending agenda items. I think, Mr. Bloss, you wanted this on, right? Was this something, so the stuff that we talk about each week is not gone, forgotten?
Just to make sure that the transfer station is, we are making headway on our future with the transfer station.
Right, yeah, because we said we were gonna try to meet again after the first of the year. At some point, we need to meet with Board of Health and start working on the plan over there.
And it's certainly, and Selectman Bloss and I had a conversation about this a week or so ago, and it's certainly not exclusive just to that particular topic. I think that topics can come and go off of that particular list, but again, it's a reminder, and just as we do with the committee reports, there may be nothing to report, but it at least keeps it in our minds to continue to move forward on that particular issue and some others. So if the board is so inclined, and I don't think we need to vote on this, but if the board is so inclined, I can try to put together a list of what I think are I don't want to say pressing issues, because that it puts a degree of expedience on them that perhaps we don't want to, but a set of issues that is ongoing before the board and of such importance, let's say, that it warrants inclusion. And so in the next couple of days or so, I'll put something together, send it out to the board. Perhaps the board can throw a couple of ideas, at Mary and myself as well, and
Well, could we look at some of the goals we had and maybe
Yeah.
pull from there? And
it'll be a combination of those sorts of
Okay.
things.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Beyond all business.
So, I just have a couple reservations on trying to put everything on the agenda, because I think if you do, it just will prolong our meetings. And I think the whole point of having an agenda and having that kind of safeguard in a sense, just to make sure that you're not here every night talking about the same things, even if there's no updates. To kind of come to the middle, I think it would be great to have a whiteboard, maybe in our meeting room here, just to have everything that we need to worry about on a whiteboard. Every week we can come in, we get that, oh, right, we have to talk about the transfer station. But I'm just afraid if we put everything on the agenda, if someone wants to talk about the transfer station, it's on the agenda, it might prolong the meeting each week or whatnot. That's just my, I don't mind either way, but that's what
No,
my
I
concern
think
I
is.
totally agree.
That's an
great.
interesting perspective. It could make the meetings unwieldy, really almost completely unmanageable if we have this just like run-on list of all the things that we're working on. What about a interim solution? Or like kind of meeting halfway? What if you had that list and put together that list, Mike? And then when Mary is putting together the agenda, if you ask whether we need to discuss any one of those items that are on that running list.
Ask whom?
Ask us, because
I
Mary's
s-
supposed to be reaching out to us and asking us if we've got anything for the upcoming agenda. And that might just trigger us to say, like Wes wants to bring up maybe, say, the plastic bag, that, you know, like whatever, but we've got that running list, and it might just trigger, even if you just came up with a list of things that you know we might want to bring up. I don't know.
Mr. Chairman, can I, and I mean, actually, between what Laura's, I was thinking originally too with what Matt is saying. All I really think we need for the town's people, is a visual that that every meeting, they could see a whiteboard or a list that Carol could post or something that you could say. These are all issues that are
Things that we're
being
addressing.
addressed, worked on by the committee. We don't, not that we do even bring them up every week at all. I don't want to hear I don't want the transfer station brought up until the Board of Health is here.
Oh, God.
And we are actually having a meeting on the transfer station. But
So
I
maybe
think
we
there are
do
a lot of
bullet
people.
somewhere in here.
Yeah, because there are a lot of people who keep asking me, well, what about, and it's like, no, that's in progress. The cell tower,
It's in the mix.
it's in the mix, and
Yeah.
people are always asking,
does
is
that say right
there?
there?
But it's like, people are always asking that kind of thing,
Writing.
and it's just like, I think a visual that could be shown even before the meeting starts or whatever, but something that people would say, oh, they're talking about that. Oh, yeah, that's an issue
what do we
that
think about a
they
board-
know about.
In here, how would that be? How would that look,
It would
Mike?
have to be a freestanding, I wouldn't want to put it on the wall.
Well, we can noodle how we do this, but I think.
Yeah.
But why
I-
don't you,
yeah.
you know, given the feedback of the Board of Selectmen, I think I know what you want. Why don't I work on that, and I'll report it out to you at the next meeting?
Okay.
I'll come up with, you know, Mary and I and whomever else, we'll try to figure out the best way to approach what you've just said.
I think it gets to that point, one of the goals that we had set, which was like better communication out to people about what's going on and what we're working on, other than the things that they might see in the meetings, because, you know, there's so many other things. We're in these subcommittees where,
No.
you know, you're having all these conversations, and that's not all necessarily discussed each week.
Yeah, let us work on it. I get the gist of what you're interested in. Let Mary and I and some other people kind of work through what we would recommend
Excellent.
to try to do what
Thank
you
you.
guys want.
Okay, next on the agenda, accept donations. First, we have Paula Smith, $200, Elder Affairs. Joseph and Judith McDonald, $50, Elder Affairs. Whitman Donuts Incorporated, $275, Elder Affairs. Ferry's Automotive, $150, Elder Affairs. Patricia Lippert, $20, Fire Department. And the last one is Disabled American Veterans, $250 for the Veterans Department.
I move we accept those donations as.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any questions?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
can we just make sure a thank you letter goes out to these businesses?
Yeah, I think Mary does it automatically.
The senior center letters go out directly
Yeah.
from the senior
Mary
center.
was-
Most
yeah.
of the ones for everyone else that go out, not necessarily from us, right from the people who actually received it.
Okay, excellent, thank you.
Good question, Matt. All those in favor? 5-0. Okay, appointments and resignations, we're done there. Requests, item number 7, Hanson Public Library Foundation request for a fee waiver for trivia night, July 13th, 5 PM to 10 PM. That's item 7 if you're following on your iPad. The wall, so it looks like there is, the regular rate is 400. So it looks like the rec commission approved, where does it say? what
Zero.
the Discounted rate, 0.
Yep.
Okay, so they're gonna waive the fee.
So the town is paying for the folks that are gonna be staffing the event.
Yep.
Okay.
Looking for a motion to accept
So moved.
this
Second.
request. We have a motion been made and seconded. Any questions? All those in favor? 5-0. Okay, next, discuss and possible vote the streetlight requests Progress Way and Main Street. It's number 8 on your iPads. Okay, Mike, you want to bring us up to speed on this one?
Yeah, it's quite simple, Mr. Chairman. We had an individual come in and make a request that we consider putting a streetlight at the entrance of the neighborhood there. Checking with National Grid, I assumed and was correct that this technically should be something, the recommendation, the request come from the Board of Selectmen. I reached out to the highway. They're supportive of it. Not only are they supportive of it, they think it's a good idea. So it's as simple as making the request, the Board of Selectmen voting, and Mary and I will make an official request to National Grid. I can't say what the time frame would be, but they'll put it in their queue, and I can't imagine they would react negatively to it.
Is there a cost to the town for this?
No.
But we'll have to pay for it once.
Oh, I was
We'll
just
pay
gonna
for-
say,
we'll pay for the
we don't pay
lights.
for
Yeah, we-
streetlights?
Yeah, no.
We'd have
there's
a lot
not
more lights.
There's not a cost to the town of the construction of it, but obviously we pay for the lights. And, you know, one of the things actually, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, we're actually, just to touch upon what you said, Laura, we may at some point be purchasing the lights, so we may be taking those over through a green community grant and that sort of
All
thing.
right, I have a question. On the agenda, it says, streetlight requests Progress Way and Main Street. In the letter that the woman wrote, it says
Gentlemen.
Main Street and Brookside Drive.
I think it's a gentleman, Leonard King.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, I apologize. Now, I know Brookside Drive is down a little bit further, so which one are we putting a streetlight, Main and Brookside or Main and Progress Way?
That's my mistake.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's Brookside.
Okay. Because Brookside is right across from Middlebrook.
Yeah, it is.
And then
it's
Progress Way is a little
Little
bit further
farther
up.
up.
It's
Okay.
Brookside.
All right.
Okay.
Misrepresentation on the map.
No, that just one, just
Yep,
one, double
yes.
check.
I don't particularly have a problem with this, but what is the normal process of this in terms of when a development is built and putting these in? And do we have other people out there that need streetlights, and are we setting some type of precedence? I'm just curious.
Well, in terms of setting a precedent, as I indicated, my impression was, I hadn't dealt with it in a little while, but my impression was that, you know, this sort of request needs to go through the Board of Selectmen. My impression comes from the fact that I've dealt with this in other communities. This is, I mean, it's not a very common occurrence, but it does happen when, and again, the Board of Selectmen is within its, you know, within its authority
You
to.
said you went to Highway,
To
that's the
say,
first
to
place I
say
would
no,
go.
but, again, yeah, I went to Highway and they thought it was a good idea.
And is this something the developer should be doing, though? I guess is the question that I'm asking, because they make a point of saying it's in the entrance to our new neighborhood.
Well-
And I'm just wondering, like, we've got Stonebridge Commons, like, we've got a lot of other new developments, and they haven't come to us asking for a light. So is this something that the developer didn't do, and now they're coming to the town asking for it to be done? I just need a little clarification about what the roles and responsibilities are there.
Well, I'd have to look into that, Laura. Yeah, again, the few times that I've come across this, it really hasn't been an issue. It's in a sense, almost a public safety sort of thing. At the end of the day, I do believe this particular location, and I could be mistaken, but this particular location is on a public way. So I'm not sure a developer would be able to put something on a public
Yeah,
way.
it's dark there. It's in between Lynch's and Meadowbrook.
It is
It's
dark.
dark.
Yeah, it is.
Go ahead, Matt.
Mr. Chair, two things. One, on the sheets here, it's talking about halogen lights and whatnot. Can we make sure it's an LED light, so that way we're not spending the $100 a month or whatever it may be? But then the other point too, to bring up is, this is gonna become the town's responsibility. I know there's a few folks here in the town of Hanson that are paying right now out of their own pocket for streetlights, like the folks on Orchard Ave, up off of Holly Ridge. They wanted streetlights and they're paying out of pocket each month to have lights on their street. So if we're gonna do it for one person, I wanna make sure it's equitable to any, you know what I mean? I just don't want it to see favoritism.
Yeah, I'm
That's
not
what-
familiar with the Orchard.
Orchard
with that
Ave,
one.
you know what I mean, I'll get, granted, Orchard Ave is, you know, a side street, not much traffic's going on, whereas this is gonna be Main Street, it's right on Route 27. Yeah, I understand that, you know, I can see the difference, but
Is Orchard an accepted public way, do we know?
I believe.
Because that would,
Yeah,
that would be
yeah,
different.
I'll have to double check on that,
Yeah, the
but,
Board of Selectmen wouldn't be in a position where they could request anything on an unaccepted public, private way.
So, but that's just one thing to
That could be the difference.
Yeah,
Orchard Ave, we're talking Holly Ridge.
right.
It's right around the
Yeah,
corner.
that's a town, that's a town.
Yeah, that's,
Orchard Ave.
Yes.
it's a circle, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a circle that goes.
This is what I was saying, Matt, is I, on its face, I see what they're saying, I agree with Kenny, this seems like a little bit of a dangerous area, it's a main street, et cetera, but I'm just wondering, are we like opening
Setting
the
a
floodgates
precedent.
here and setting a precedence, and what, if so, what's our rules of engagement around this? You know,
So once you do this, once you talk to Highway and just find out what's the process been in the past.
I think this has been the process, but I think that we certainly can look at something a little more defined going forward.
I'm fine with it. But if everyone's not fine with it, then we're gonna table it.
it's not that I'm not fine with it, I just want to make sure that we're not unwittingly stepping into something here that, as Matt has indicated, or I think this is what you're saying, it may not be sustainable.
I think you gotta look at it as it's a public way, it's a safety for a public way, so that's where you have to put your caution at.
I think that
Yeah.
if the highway department had come back and said it was unnecessary, actually, I probably wouldn't have brought it before you right now. So that's really, has always been my bellwether in terms of these sorts of situations. If the highway department believes that, you know, it'll assist in terms of safety, in terms of lighting, in terms of, to a certain extent, doing their job. But again, I mean, I'm more than happy to go and maybe come up with a better defined policy that the Board of Selectmen can vote to put in effect.
Yeah, I guess,
in the
I
future.
guess, I hear what you're saying, that Highway is okay with it.
Or not more than okay, they're supportive, they think it's a
No,
good idea.
and I get that, but I think if it would be, I would have a different reaction if it was Highway was proposing this, because they've identified that it was
Mm-hmm.
an issue, and that there are other places in town that need these lights.
Mm-hmm.
That's seems to me like a different paradigm
Yeah.
than what's happening here. And I don't wanna say no to this, and I'm not saying no, I'm just saying, I feel like we need a little bit more information about process, procedure, protocol.
And we can do such.
Yeah, okay.
I just want to add, the Street Light Safety Committee, it's been evolved into several different committees, but years ago it was relatively active, and I'm talking several years ago. And they did put a policy together of having streetlights. When subdivisions come in, the developer is responsible for the lights. Notify the residents that if they want lights in these subdivisions, that they're responsible for them. But one of the parameters within their policy was that at intersections, you know, have a light. And in this case, it's the intersection at the end of a street going on to a major road in Hanson. A light would be appropriate there. Bad curves, things like that. And some of the members were, you know, the highway, police, some selectmen, I can't remember who was on the committee. But that was, they went through this because you would have people saying, I want a street light
Right.
at the end of my cul-de-sac or
Yep.
something, but some developers come in, they put the lights there, and then when they're done with the street, they go off, and nobody wants to pay for them. And it's tough for the town to be picking up the cost of it. I mean, if we're gonna be, you know, getting it through a grant and whatever, owning our own streetlights, then we own them. But Matt's absolutely correct. There are several people around who wanted a streetlight in front of their house, and we have one 200 yards down the road, we aren't putting one in, they'll pay for their own. But in this particular case, I would say, based on the policy they had years ago, this would be an appropriate location for one.
Could we see the policy? Could you recirculate the policy, and
I
can we
will,
pop it on the
I'll
agenda for
pull that
next
out.
week? Okay.
Right, why, can we delay the vote till next week?
You certainly could if that's the board's.
I'd like to table it. I mean, only with what Laura had said about the highway department works 7 to 3, 7 to 4, so they're not out there at night. So it would be hard for the highway department to recommend it without the citizen coming up and saying, it's dark
That's an
at the end of my
Yeah.
street. And if it is an intersection, then maybe we should, and I agree with Matt too, that you can't have all these different people, but I think the policy is gonna make a difference, but,
My gut's telling me at the end of the day, we'll probably approve this, but I just want to see the policy and go through the process.
So let's table it, let's table it till the 22nd. And Mary, you can send out the policy when you get a chance.
Okay.
Okay, old business, discuss and vote green community grant items. Item 9.
As I believe the board is aware, the town of
More
Hanson.
streetlights.
No, not street, well, no, not at this point. Well, actually, I take that back, kind of. As the board is aware, the town has been designated as a green community, and what comes with that is a little over $150,000 worth of grant money. However, it's not an outright grant, they don't give us the money, and we make decisions how we move forward. We need to send the proposed projects to the state for their approval. They obviously want to make sure that the money is being spent in conjunction for the reasons the money was given, namely energy efficiency, green sort of operations and whatnot. And we've had some conversations. Selectman Dyer's been involved in some of them via the Energy Committee. We've had some conversations on how we wish to apply that money. We had originally thought that the deadline for that was a week or so ago. The deadline was actually if we were going to put in for the competitive grants. Even if we had wished to, we couldn't because we're in our first year. So anyway, there is a deadline, however, February the 8th, to put in for what we would like to spend this money for. The money doesn't go away, it's just in terms of getting it lined up for this particular cycle. And our conversations with people from the state indicate that when we do submit these requests against this money by the 8th of February, that we won't really see that money till probably late April, early May. It's just the process. We're talking the state. And one of the unfortunate things about this money is we cannot go ahead and use the money to fix something that may be a glaring issue right now and then reimburse ourselves with those monies. So we're trying to navigate through and figure out what we can wait upon until May. There are a few things that I won't get into right now, but there are a few things in terms of heating systems and cooling systems and whatnot that are going to need immediate attention. And Mary and I and the town accountant and the FinCom are talking about the best ways to tackle that. But what I will touch upon, at least for this meeting, and I anticipate having this on the agenda for the next meeting as well, we're having conversations about some issues that have come up at the police department in terms of their heating and their cooling systems, some of which can wait, I'm being told, until the spring. Matt and Jim Armstrong have taken a look at that, bringing it back to the Energy Committee as well to get their recommendations, their thoughts going forward. But there are some things, like I said, that are going to need to be tended to in the immediate time frame. In addition, over the weekend, we became aware of the fact, unfortunately, that there were some major problems with the heating system at the library. So we've had some conversations just as recently as today as to first what that would cost us, and secondly, what they could possibly, if it would be possible for some short-term fixes to get us through to that May time period. So all that being said, we're still going back and forth with a couple of things that we'd be comfortable asking the Board of Selectmen to support going forward. I think I'm comfortable in saying at this point that even given all these things I've mentioned, we're still going to have some money left from this $150,000 some odd dollars. But what I would like the Board of Selectmen to consider and vote this evening is an approval for me to engage in a streetlight audit for $9,000. Well, not engage, but put forth to the state that we would like to apply to expend from that money $9,000 to do a streetlight audit. And what the streetlight audit will allow us to do is two things. In the short term, potentially identify lights that were, it's funny because we're just talking about lights, identify lights that we may be inadvertently being billed for, or maybe double billed, maybe lights that aren't even working. And we actually may see some money coming back to us, probably not money coming back to us, but potential credits after this audit. But what this will also allow us to do is, this sort of an audit is necessary going forward if indeed the town of Hanson wishes to purchase the lights. And I think we've touched upon in a couple of meetings or so ago of a certain degree of wisdom in doing that very thing, that it can be drawn out so that in the end we're really not spending any money It would really be leveraged against the savings that we would get in the electricity bills once we own the lights and once we retrofit them with energy-efficient lights. And while the money from the state will not allow us, they will not give us money to purchase the lights, the poles and the fixtures in and of themselves. They will give us money to retrofit them. So again, this is something we probably go into the competitive grant over starting around this time next year. But to even get to that point, we would need this audit in place. There is a program through the Massachusetts Metropolitan Area Planning Commission, which we are not a member of, but apparently we can avail ourselves of to assist us in all this. They do have some grant money as well. So I'm probably making a short story long at this point, but regardless of whether or not we go forward with the purchase of the lights, there is a significant value in going through this audit, especially since it's not money we would be expending. So I would ask the board to consider taking a vote to allow me to make that application formally to the appropriate agency of the state.
And is that the exhibit called Contract for Street Audit?
Yes.
And Tanco Street Lighting, Inc. in San Francisco, California, is the party would be engaging?
Yes.
And there's nobody local from Massachusetts? that we can-
This is the party that does it in Massachusetts. I had that, and I can't remember if you were with me, but I had a conversation with Seth Pickering and Chris Collins, who is a local person,
Yeah.
and would likely get involved at some level. He actually lives here in town. This company is the company that does come around the state of Massachusetts and does these things. I actually asked Chris if it was something that he could do, and it wasn't. He could assist us going forward in the next phase that I mentioned. However, without recommending this particular company, they were pretty comfortable with it. Another consideration, and I haven't received 100% assurance yet from the Metropolitan Area Planning Committee. We need to make sure that that audit is in compliance with what they will accept. According to the two gentlemen to whom I just referred, this is the company that particular planning agency uses, so I'm really not concerned about it. But it also, again, has to be an audit that will fit in with whatever criteria they have for their grant program.
And this
So-
won't exceed $9,000?
No.
All right, so I move that we enter into, we permit Mike to enter into the contract for streetlight and audit and design project with Tanco Street Lighting, Inc. on our behalf.
No,
This is just to submit an application.
this is to submit.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay, I thought you had you have the contract
I have the
here.
contract, and this
Oh.
is the contract that I will forward to the state and ask them if they will give us the funding for this contract.
Gotcha, okay.
And at which time, like I think I indicated, that process probably won't be completed until late April, early
All right, so
May.
I move that you submit an application to the state for a streetlight audit.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded. Any questions? No. All those in favor?
And I will indicate, I
5-0,
don't know
Mary.
if Matt wants to mention this, this particular project was spoken of at the last Energy Committee meeting, and they were supportive of moving forward with this.
Yeah, so with this streetlight project, this is the lowest hanging fruit for the town of Hanson to retrofit and upgrade the lights to LEDs. So right now, we're still paying for these lights to be on. What we hope to do is purchase them so we can retrofit them to LEDs. And rather than spending what those figures were on that proposal of $114 per year, it would significantly drop because you're going from halogen, which is a very energy intensive product, to LEDs, which is not as much. So this is the lowest hanging fruit. It's a project that's going to take a lot of time to get to the finish line, so we just wanted to start this project, and this is the first step.
One of the things we've done as well, and I don't want to go too deep into this, but we have made a request of National Grid to get the cost of purchasing of the lights, and that also is very time consuming. They generally my experience has been in speaking with other towns, it usually takes several months to get that information back from them. So even if we wanted to, even if we were able to move forward on the potential purchase or refit of the lights, the fact that we don't have those figures yet don't allow us to move forward. So it's all, I don't want to say carefully choreographed, but choreographed as best as we can.
Okay, you're up, Mike. Town Administrator's Report.
Oh, I thought that was it, no? I'll touch upon a few more things. I am happy to report that we have just recently received $24,970.85 through the efforts of many people in town, but in particular our fire chief, Jerry Thompson, money for a blizzard that occurred in 2013.
February 13th.
Yeah, so it's not surprising to me, having been involved in a few of these things in the past. You get a state of emergency declaration, the ability to go to FEMA and get the money, but it takes forever for Congress to really release those monies. So I thank Jerry and everyone else. Obviously, I wasn't here for this, but who participated and got this moving forward. And finally, we got $25,000 that should have come to us back in 13.
Mike, now where does this money go now that we received it? Because obviously we paid our bills from 2013,
Yeah,
right?
it comes in as unanticipated revenue, and it just goes into the general fund. It goes into the general fund as free cash once the state certifies free cash in the fall. So it just comes back in.
And there's no way to kind of put this in a
Well, the
future fund?
town meeting could.
Okay.
Yeah, town meeting could put it
Anyway, town
somewhere.
meeting.
Yeah. Another piece of good news, our newly appointed Lieutenant Mike Casey was successful in receiving a grant for $17,532 for mobile data terminals. So I wanted to acknowledge, that. Obviously, that's a significant amount of money, and that is earmarked for that particular.
That's
particular.
computers for the police cruisers.
Right, for the cruisers.
We have received a couple of applications for town planner, the full-time town planner. Those were due on this Friday. I will come up with a process by which I will more than likely sit with one, if not two members of the planning board and go through and interview these people. And hopefully, I wouldn't anticipate by the next meeting, but hopefully the first meeting in February, you can make an official appointment, because even though this is in support of the planning board, and obviously I want the full participation as appropriate of the planning board, the position technically falls under me and falls under the Board of Selectmen, so you'll be doing the actual hiring. I put a lot of things out, actually, between the last meeting and this meeting. And I think that I may have told the board in emails, but obviously not at a meeting. We did put out an RFP for the sale of the Liberty Street property across from the middle school. We've posted signs. It was in the newspaper already, the local newspaper. It'll be in the local newspaper the week before the deadline. The deadline is February the 8th to receive proposals. It basically will take the highest bid. It's a closed bid process. We'll just open up the envelopes, very similar to the way we sold the land over at the hospital. One consideration, though, I believe that we've already worked through this in terms of how it's zoned, is to the best of our ability, we wish to see that particular parcel remain as a commercial parcel. And we do have some language within the RFP that says that it is subject to those sorts of conditions to actually consummate the sale. So again, I'm not sure that it's going to be necessary, but I did want to put it in there to the degree possible. I'd like to ensure that we don't see a 30B go in there as well. I'm not sure, given the strength of the 30B laws, that we'll be able to do that, but in consultations with town council, we're doing our best to make sure that stays as a commercial piece of property, because that is the highest value or the highest use for that particular property.
What's the acreage again, Mike?
Oh, I don't have that in front of me, Selectman Bloss, I can get it to you.
That's fine.
Off the top of my head, I want to say it's slightly under 2.
I thought it was like 1.5, I'm not sure, like 1.57 or something
So I
like that.
think
Yeah.
given that area, I don't think that it trips into the residential zoning, which would be right behind it. I think it's about 100 or 200 feet from the street. So I don't think it's an issue, but we wanted to make sure that we had coverage and to see that particular property developed or sold and used for the ways that we would like to see it. At the end of the day, and this is certainly within anything that we put out in terms of RFPs, whether we're selling something or looking for services, we don't have to take any of the bids. The Board of Selectmen can choose, on my recommendation, not to move forward on anything. So we're covered to the best of our abilities to see it's developed the ways we think are beneficial to the town. It's our piece of property. We want to sell to somebody who hopefully will do something we think is appropriate with it. I put out an RFP, as I think we discussed at a previous meeting, for brokerage services for the McQuon School. That will be due on February the 7th. So it's actually the day before the RFP is due on the property. As of to date, we've only had 2 companies that have expressed any interest in that. However, that's fine. My intention is that that we will sit with the McQuon Reuse Committee not that long after that deadline, and that committee will review the RFPs with myself and then make a recommendation going forward as to who the Board of Selectmen would potentially award that RFP to. So a couple of, I think, significant moves in the right direction. Tomorrow, the 23rd at 2 o'clock, we're going to have, I believe, what will be our last meeting and putting the last bows on the plans for the Complete Streets project, which is basically making improvements at the intersection of Liberty County and High Street. At which time we'll move forward in terms of advertising it. We're going to get assistance, obviously, from environmental partners in doing all of that. The deadline to spend that money is the end of this fiscal year. We're comfortable that we'll meet that, but we need to make some final decisions and move forward. So that will all occur on the 23rd of January. The Board of Selectmen has already voted in terms of what it wanted to see. I'm not even sure if this full board was sitting at the time, but what we put at the top of the list for consideration for the Complete Streets, the state accepted that particular project, so it's just a matter of some fine tuning in terms of the engineering. I'll be sitting with the chairman of the planning board, town engineer, a representative from highway. Again, it's just little things here and there, and I'll be happy to report, hopefully at the next meeting, that we're putting that RFP out, and we'll move forward on that. So good things happening, a lot of things starting to happen. The Board of Selectmen did vote at a previous meeting to allow me to investigate the possibility of creating a septic district tying in with Brockton's system. I did go and meet a couple of private people and myself, met with OCPC, I believe it was a week and a half or so ago, and in a nutshell, the cost of that connection is overwhelming, to the tune of about $10 million. Yeah, given the length from the location to where the nearest tie-in is, which is somewhere in Whitman. So that being said, I made an executive decision and said we wouldn't be doing that. However, what I have asked OCPC to do, and they're doing it as a part of one of their assistance grants, they will take a look at whether it makes any sense to do something on-site, an on-site sort of septic district, to identify maybe a location, a central location that might be a combination of land that we currently own and land that we might be able to acquire. Obviously, if we create that sort of a district, well, it would have been sort of the same way too if we did it with the connection. But if we create that sort of a district, and in a sense we've got to hire people to manage it, all those funds, all that money would come out of whatever assessment that the district gives to the people that tie into it. So we've pushed aside the possibility of tying in with Brockton, which I'm sure Brockton isn't happy about, but we're going to advance and see if there is any reasonable feasibility to doing it on-site. Again, the whole notion is to encourage further development on that particular stretch of road, economic development, which the place is primed for it, as everyone on this board knows. But to the degree that we can do something to further that, that's what we're doing. So we've changed gears, we're going in a different direction. I am looking to call a TIF committee meeting probably sometime next week. I think we're looking at sometime in the afternoon on Wednesday, with the possibility of the committee coming up with a final recommendation to bring before the Board of Selectmen. I have been meeting on a weekly basis with their point person, just to make sure that we're all still moving forward. I have proposed a meeting with him tomorrow afternoon, which I would assume that I will have, at which time I'll make sure that our documentation lines up with their documentation, that we have everything that I believe the committee wishes to have prior to making a recommendation to go before the Board of Selectmen. Our hope had been to get this all done before the end of this month, and I think we will, just by, the skin of our teeth. So at that point in time, I would envision the Board of Selectmen making a recommendation one way or the other. If it's a positive recommendation, we put it on the warrant that the board just opened, and we bring it before the townspeople. So that moves forward. I represented the towns of Hanson and Whitman on the 16th of January at a school committee meeting, just to let you know that I had done that. It was I believe it was the last union contract that they had outstanding. It was approved and moved forward. So I represented not only us but Hanson, but Whitman. I had agreed to do that, I don't know, a couple of years or so ago. And lastly, I just today, after we played around with the contract a little bit to make sure it was acceptable to state procurement bylaws, and actually I ran it by town accountant as well. I signed the contract to have the economic development master plan go forward with the company that I discussed with you and you had allowed me to engage with at a previous meeting. So I would envision representatives from this company coming before the Board of Selectmen in the next couple of meetings or so, and having a discussion as to what they envision the project being, and to get any feedback from the Board of Selectmen. If I'm not mistaken, and Mary can correct me, I think the only members of the Economic Development Committee are sitting here right now. I think the only other person we had ended up leaving town. So we'll kill two birds with the one stone, I guess, in terms of the Economic Development Committee. And we certainly, as Selectman Dyer mentioned earlier, we certainly encourage people to apply for that, so. And I think that I will end there, sir.
Mike, how are we making out with the cell phone antenna? Where are we with that?
Actually, as of the end of last week, I received an approval from our legal counsel who does our contracts. She has no issue with the contract that the last iteration of the contract that came from the builder, and I'll be putting that before the Board of Selectmen at the next meeting to chop on and move forward.
Any updates on JJ's?
Yeah, I have sent information to town council. I have been in contact with with legal counsel for the potential buyer. There have been some hiccups along the way in terms of the full transfer of that property from the current owner to the potential owner. I have asked town council to reach out to his lawyer. There are some issues that I won't broach at this moment that the Board of Selectmen may need to act on at the next meeting.
Okay, I was just
try
looking
to-
for a general, I know there's
Well,
some things you
yeah.
can't.
Yeah, there's some legal things that I don't fully understand at this point. My most recent update, because I thought the board may ask this, my most recent update was as of 3 hours ago in terms of where things stand. And at that time, in reading through it, I asked Kate to get a hold of the gentleman that's representing the potential buyer, and again, there may be some, and I don't want to overstep things because they may not be some, but there may be some things that this board needs to act on at the next meeting.
Okay, and where are we with, the deadline has come and gone for all of us to give our feedback on your performance to Mary. And I know we've got a full agenda, it's not on the agenda now. When are we planning on, have we,
It's gonna still be a few more weeks, because Mary has to
All right.
get the stuff together, and,
sometime
We
in
just-
February?
yeah,
Okay,
I would say sometime in February, yeah.
okay.
I've
Yep.
removed myself from that process.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Next, we have approved minutes. So why don't we do the November 27th, December 11th, the 18th altogether? You guys get a chance to review the minutes?
Yep,
Laura, I'm looking for a motion, because I always go
so
to the
moved.
executive session.
I move to approve the minutes of November 27th, 2018, December 11th, 2018, December 18th, 2018, regular, and January 15th, 2019.
Nope. January 15th, we're gonna hold off, because there's
Oh.
only 3 of us.
Oh, okay.
Just the executive session part. Not to be released, is it?
Right.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor? 5-0. Okay, and then I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of January 15th. Selectman Dyer, Selectman Kemet, and Mitchell were here.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor? 3-0, Mary. 3-0-2. Thank you, guys. Okay, 1-day liquor license. Candace Amaral, East Bridgewater for Camp Kawani, Sunday, February 17th, from 12 to 4 for a birthday party.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any questions? All those in favor? 5-0 on the liquor license, Mary. All right, community reports. We'll run through these briefly here, because we have a couple of people waiting for us. 200th Anniversary Committee.
Not meeting until the 31st, there's nothing major to report, other than we are going to have a, what do we call it, a Monte Carlo night. Yes, sometime in April, more to be.
Cards, right?
It's
Casino
a whole
card.
gambling type of thing, but we can't really gamble, so it's done in a different, you can gamble, but you can't be paid cash, so we have a
The
little,
governor's working on that.
but more on that later.
Okay, the final Plymouth County Hospital Reuse Committee.
We'll be meeting in the next couple weeks.
Excellent, thanks, Matt. McCollin School Reuse Committee.
I think Mike just mentioned, we issued the RFP, and we'll be meeting sometime in the second week of February.
Okay, excellent, good job, guys. In the highway building, there's nothing important right now. So we are now going into executive session pursuant to General Law C-30A, S-21A1, discussion of the complaint or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual, and pursuant to General Law C-30A, S-21A1, discussion of strategy with respect to litigation where an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the public body. Further, to conduct strategy sessions and the preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining session or contract negotiation with non-union personnel if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body and the chair so declares. Fire union. So I'm looking for a roll call vote to go in executive session.
A motion first.
Motion, yeah, that would help.
So moved.
Motion. Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Second.
We
Aye.
have, don't we have to
Oh,
do a
okay,
roll
all
call?
right.
Sorry, Mary, going too
I'm
fast.
so- No, that's all right, I couldn't hear who
Aye.
said it.
I'm in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Matt's in favor. We're now in executive session.